Hello everyone. So I don't know if it shows on camera from time to time, but I have a couple of tattoos. So these are displayed right there. Damn, those arms look thin. Jesus Christ. Okay. So yeah, here are two examples of my tattoos. Why do I want to talk about that today? And specifically, like, how is it related to this, like, sort of tech-oriented channel or like camera tech talk, right? So just like any guy with tattoos, I would like more. And until now, all of my tattoos have been thought out a certain way, going through certain guidelines, and I have an idea for the next one, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. So here are two examples of the tattoos that I have. Well, two examples, more like the 2 out of 3 tattoos I have. I didn't have pictures of the older one, which is this one right there. So these tattoos, what about them? I designed them all by myself. As you can see, they are pretty geometric. They're related to something that is important to me, and they are also on the same arm, which is my right arm right now. So it's been a while, and I would like a new one. And so for this next one, I thought about it, and there was something I wanted to do for the longest time now, which is a generative design tattoo. So generative design tattoo, what does that really mean? First of all, what is generative design, right? There is this book, fucking amazing book, all about this. Let me show you. This guy right there. So this was my, it's not gone, right? This is the first book that I had related to technology. And this book is about a particular technology called processing. And processing was the very first, if you could call, language that I used to create visuals with code. This is what brought me into the coding world. And as you can imagine, processing is very, very important to me. I think I was 14 years old when I wrote my first line of code in processing. And this was the first instance of me thinking, oh, you can literally write code to make visual stuff, which I didn't know was a thing at the time. And this book is about a lot of different examples of how to use processing to create visual stuff. You have this first part in the beginning. Oh, it's a beautiful book. You have this first black part in the beginning that shows you beautiful imagery of what can be generated with this. And when it came to my tattoos, it just really made sense to try to create something with that technology. So yeah, I had this idea, create a tattoo with processing. Another question is how, what, and especially what would be the meaning behind it? How, I don't want to put a bunch of random circles on my arm or anything. So I need to find something. So first of all, before going into that, just a little bit about processing. If you are watching this, watching my stuff, and you would like to get started into visual graphics coding, processing is an amazing entry-level coding tool, if I could say, because it's based on Java. So is it a library? Is it a framework? I don't really know. Processing is amazing to start with. It's a very, very fun language, almost no setup apart from downloading it and just knowing the first lines of codes. And it is just a great sandbox to get started. And not even just a sandbox, you can create pretty pushed things with processing nowadays too. So yeah, for this generative design tattoo idea, we now have the technology. What do we want to create, right? So I sat down one day and I thought about it. What do I want this tattoo to be about? Something that a lot of people have in common, and me included. I am into music, quite a lot. I wouldn't consider myself an audiophile or making my personality around the fact that I cannot live without music or whatever. But music is a pretty important part of my life. Not only listening to it, but I have been also having musical education since I am 3 years old, and had it every year in my life until I was 15 years old. So it's a big part of my life too. So I'd like it to be about music. Okay. Using processing. What else do I like that I could make personal, right? I thought about it a little bit, and also mathematics in general are a big part of my life. And while thinking about it, music and math are very, very, very close together when it comes to frequencies of certain keys, spectral transformations, harmonics, which are all big things in both mathematics and music. So it's okay, maybe I'm starting to have something here. Because we all know that math is very, very, very related to programming as well. So I'm maybe there is something we can have here. So here was the idea. Using processing, create a generative design tattoo related to both music and mathematics. Cool. Okay, great. Oh, not only that, also make it geometric and make it so that it would look good next to my different tattoos. Because like, as you saw the couple images, my tattoos are pretty basic in terms of shapes and forms, and I would like to keep it that way. All right, so we know where we would like to go. Now it's time to like find the ideas, the building blocks that would make this possible, right? Obviously, I'm not thinking this through right now to the camera. I'm just like elaborating how I have been thinking about it. This is pretty obvious. But yeah, I started with mathematics. So yeah, I wanted to represent something mathematical that would be pretty basic, and that would be somewhat close to like a waveform. When we talk about music and visuals, this is like the first thing we have in mind, right? Mathematically speaking, what are the most basic waveforms you can have? I thought about it, and sine and cosine are two very, very basic functions and are used across a lot of different graphics programs. So I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of perfect. I would like something wavy-ish and find a way to somehow relate that to music. So before going into the music part, because this is important, I'm going to talk a little bit about like waveform parameters, specifically like sine and cosine parameters. What are the different parameters that you have when it comes to the sine and the cosine function? Well, you have three different parameters. You have the frequency, which is like how many waves do you have per second, or like how many periods do you have, sometimes also called like wavelength. You have the amplitude, how high does that wave go, essentially, and also the phase, where does it start? So yeah, frequency, amplitude, and phase. Those are three parameters we could play with in generative design. This is how like I would think about it when I created my first generative pieces. It's like, what are the inputs I can like change to have something different according to this or that particular input, right? So here, those are the three ones we're going to talk about. So next, when it comes to music theory, what could be different parameters we can play around to create our visual? So first of all, when you look for music theory or whatever, like the very classic are like keys in general. And when it comes to pieces of music, your musical piece falls in either two categories. Music that have keys that are majors and the other ones that are minor. A little bit of a spoiler alert, so like this is quite binary, either major or minor. And what did we just talk about in mathematics? Two different waveforms generated via trigonometry, which are sine and cosine. So as you can imagine, we can make a little bit of a pretty basic relation there, right? So this is the first thing you can play with, that binary entry input. The second one, just the key itself. The key is just a note. So like a sound, essentially. And what is a sound? A sound is a compression and depression of the air a certain amount of times per second. It is a frequency. And what did we just talk about in mathematics? Waveforms, frequency as well. So again, something we can play with here. So yeah, major, minor, frequency, what else can we play with? Let's say if we talk about a piece of music as well, we can talk about tempo, essentially like the tempo of the music. I'm not going to go into what tempo is, I guess you know that. But yeah, that's also a thing we can play with. What else? Like the length of a musical piece as well. Yeah, we have all of these different parameters. And I thought about it and I'm like, I'm sure there is something pretty basic and simple we can play with to generate something based off music. And so we talked about music globally, but like the tattoo I wanted to create, I don't want to create it about like just overall music specifically, but about particular pieces of music or like songs, if you can call them, that are pretty important to me when I grew up, or just that I want to like keep with me, right? And so how can we put this all together? So I thought about it, and here is the idea that I had. Let me just go in there, create a new frame, boom, boom, boom. So imagine this, like almost every one of my tattoos, they have sort of a frame in it. So this is something I would like to have. And obviously with proportion, that makes sense. I have the golden ratio on my arm right now, and also I use it quite a lot in different pieces. I would like these proportions to be related to that. So if this is of height 1, I would like that to be 1 plus 1.618. I think this is how I created this frame. But yeah, whatever. Like those are things we can talk about another time. But yeah, a golden ratio frame. This is pretty basic. So like a basic rectangle, essentially. And in there, having a sine or cosine function for each music I would like to plug into this generative thingy, right? And the thing that I like about this idea is that if like something very important happens later into my life and I could relate it to a piece of music, I could just like add it on top of it. It could be like an evolutive tattoo if you wish. And so I don't want to just plug into like a random sine or cosine function, right? And so this is where we can play with the parameters that we talked about. For the different parameters of the waveform that we have, what can we play with? We talked about 3: phase, amplitude, and frequency. Oh, and also sine or cosine function. Let's start up with that. The way I mapped it, and I spoiled it already, but like it just makes sense. For each piece of music that I would like to add to this tattoo, if the music is major, I would like it to be a cosine function. If it's a minor, I would like it to be a sine function. So this is a first parameter we can play with. And there you go, that's the first idea. The next one is this right there, the frequency. How can I relate the frequency to my piece of music? Well, I talked about it while speaking about like a little bit about the music theory, but like the key of a song is just like a sound, which is a frequency. So you have the pretty basic idea right there, right? So yeah, these are 2 parameters. And I would like to have a third one. So as I said, we could play with amplitude, but I don't think I want that. Like if I had different waveforms that have like different heights, I don't think it would look as pleasing. I would like all of the waveforms to have the same amplitude. So I don't want to play with that. The thing I could play with though is the phase of every curve that I have on my tattoo. So what could I relate the phase with? Could relate it to the tempo or the length of the music. Spoiler alert, I would like to have 3 specific music on this tattoo. Tempo, like these are pretty close together, and I think he would like to have like other music later down the line. Tempo, they are the music that I listen to, like they're always in the same range. And I think like if you are someone who likes music and listen to like particular genres of music, tempo is oftentimes going to be like not that different from music to music. So what is another one we could play with related to time? Well, just the length of that music. It just makes sense. So yeah, just plug the length in seconds instead of this thing. So yeah, now what we just did is just called like input mapping. So yeah, for each music, create a curve. If the key of that song is major, create a cosine function. If it's minor, create a sine function. Change the phase according to the length of that piece of music. Change the frequency according to the key of that music. And we should have a pretty basic yet solid looking generative tattoo idea, right? So to create this tattoo, I already talked about it. I use processing, and as you can see, it's not that long of a script. There is almost nothing in there. This is what I love about processing too. So yeah, this is entire script. You don't need more than that. And so obviously, like again, I said that like 1,000 times. Oh my god, I'm gonna get tattooed this phrase at some point also for sure. Jesus Christ. Like there are 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Again, and like just the way I wrote this, some people are gonna get mad at me because like, yeah, this is not really clean. Like hard-coded values, what are you even talking about? Why don't you create an object for each phrases? Why don't you like add an API that fetches the music stuff? Yeah, I could do all of that. I could. The thing is, I don't want to. All right? This was pretty fun to create. And again, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. So yeah, if you are creating stuff for yourself, never fall into the like overkill engineering aspect right off the bat. You will just lose yourself in it. So how did I get these values, right? So like the frequencies, phases, and major or minor, which is a Boolean that we already talked about. I use this nifty little website where you can just like plug in a piece of music, it searches it on Spotify, and it returns you the key, the BPM, the duration, and like all different kinds of things you can play with. And this is how I obtained these 3 different pieces of music. And when you run this code, boom, this is what it generated. And so I wanted to run this script as late as possible in the creation of it so that I have like the surprise of what it would look like. And I think this is pretty good. We have the 3 pieces of music that are important to me. You can see the difference between each one of them. It makes sense. It is geometric. It will be nicely related to my other tattoos. And I think I'm pretty happy with it. So something I didn't account for is that maybe there is an error somewhere in my code and like all of those are just like random ass functions, which could be the case, but like that could be fun. But still, like I'm pretty happy with that. And again, it's a simple geometric tattoo. It's not that deep. And so yeah, when I see this compared to my other pieces, I think this would make sense somewhere on my arm. So yeah, still thinking about it, obviously. Like you have to think about tattoos and how you would like them to be placed and how you would like them to be perceived. But I think I'm quite happy with this. I think. All right, I think that's it. Oh my god, why am I so low? Was I like that the entire time? Jesus. So yeah, this was just a little walkthrough about my maybe next tattoo, since it was related to tech and also just like generative design in general. I thought it would be like nice to walk you through it. If you have any questions, again, do not hesitate to comment. I look at them quite often and try to answer to everyone. Other than that, happy coding. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I talk to you guys soon on the internet. Bye bye everyone.